Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Wonderland Asylum. We're back today with issue 15 of the Hachette Partworks release of Titanic, the ship, the legend. Okay, so cracking into the magazine, we have an article on Officer Harold Godfrey Lowe. He was the 5th officer. Just a bit on him. I'm sure he was manning one of the lifeboats when they evacuated the ship. Yes, he was the one who took the boat back to recover survivors from the water. So yeah, anyone who was saved from the water were saved because of him. Then an article on royal condolences. And then some information about the Nobel Prize for some reason. Not really sure what it has to do with the Titanic, but yeah, and again something on Marie Curie. And a list of winners of the Nobel Prize from 1901 to 1912. And we are then on to the instructions. So, before we go any further, I'll get the parts out and we'll have a look. Okay, so the first thing we have is this little baggie which has an Allen key and some hex head screws. And it says basically keep this for issue 18, so we don't need to touch that just now, which is a bit bizarre, but okay. And issue 17 is the last one we get with this pack, incidentally, so we don't have issue 18 yet. In the box, it's always a little bit of a surprise now because they say normally they come in the see-through blister packs, but with this particular collection, nope, and you can see there, nothing else in the box. Okay, put that to one side, unwrap tissue paper, and there are a few bits and pieces in here, but first and foremost, a nice hull section. And that will be joining up with this piece that we got previously. So we will be extending the hull out. And we also have a few details for the deck. Again, I will discuss a couple of bits and pieces when the time comes. And we also have a Phillips head Allen key. Again, I won't use that. I will show you what I'll be using when the time comes. But the first thing we need over is the deck we were working on last time. So I'll get the bag open and just show you the pieces here. So we have, as I mentioned previously, a big long white piece which isn't being used at the moment, so we need to keep that safe. I'll put it back in the bag when I'm done. We have two different types of screws. I think they're both Phillips head. Just making sure, yes, they are both Phillips head. Those ones aren't labelled. Those ones are labelled JM screws. And we have the first two lifeboats of the collection. Now they're the collapsible lifeboats that sit on top of the officers' quarters. I'll talk more about these at the end because they're not accurate. Again, not surprising, but a little disappointing. I haven't decided if I'm going to amend them or if I'm just going to leave them as they are. But I'll get all the pieces that we need over and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so here we have the officer's deck house that we worked on last time. And what it's telling us to do is to take the boats and glue them into place on top of the mounting points there. Just like that. So I'll glue them in place just now, but I'm only going to use a little bit of glue. And again, what I'm using, because I think this is probably one of the first times you've seen me use this, it's just a normal hand drill or a pin vise, and it's got a straightened paper clip on the end of it, and that just makes the glue a little bit neater to apply. I think this actually is the first piece that I've glued in this model. And again, just put the bolts in. The bolts are the same front and back. They don't make the slightest bit of difference which way you put them, but just make sure they are sitting straight and the keel slots into the appropriate point like that. Okay, and that should look like that with the two bolts attached. The glue I'm using is this. It's called Glue It, and it's in a vacuum sealed tube. And what I do is, this is a Pringles lid, I just put a little bit on there, touch this into it, and then use it to glue the pieces that I need. But that's all we need to do with this piece for now, but it does add a nice little bit to it. As I say, I'll put the funnel back in at the end and let you see what that looks like. The next thing we're going to be working on is the hull. So if we bring over, it's the bottom piece we need first, and we need the IM screws, I do believe. Yes. Yep. That's right. It says we need 6 of... right, okay, cool. So you need the ones that were supplied with this issue, and you also need the ones that were supplied with this piece in a previous issue. So we should have plenty of them. We need 6 in total. So just make sure you have the 6 there. So if I take the 5 that are in this bag out, and then one of the ones from this bag here, that's all we'll need. Okie dokie. Now this will add a fair bit of size and weight, but they're very, very short stubby screws, so there's not going to be a great deal of bite on them. So we need to bring over the hull piece, which looks like that. The hull hooks in like this. Make sure it's sitting absolutely straight, because if it's not, you will notice and it will look terrible. And then just screw these two IM screws in. As I say, they're not very long screws, so I'm only screwing it in just enough to hold it until I get the other side in. Go. So that's them both in. Now you want to make sure it's sitting straight before tightening it up the rest of the way, because they're there's a very, very thick flange on these screws, and what it essentially does is it holds it into place. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. And that holds the bottom of the keel in just like that, and you can see it's sitting perfectly straight. Now the next piece we need is this side piece here, and it goes on the port side. So it's going along here. So what you need to do is look for those jigsaw pieces, and there will be 2 plugs on the side there. They will go into those 2 holes. So line all that up, which is probably the hardest bit, is getting everything to line up, and then piece it all together. Just manipulate it as much or as little as you need to. Not the easiest of tasks, this one. It may actually have been easier to do this. In fact, what I'm going to do is back these 2 screws out a little, so I've got a little bit of wiggle room with that bottom piece, because you can now see that can move slightly. So that should make it easier, because I can now line these two pieces at the front up, push them in, because they are fairly solid, and then line all this up here. There we are. That's far better. And now I can tighten these two screws here back up, safe in the knowledge that everything else fits and lines up properly. So see, that looks just like that. And the next thing we need to do, to stop anything else falling out, is put in the rest of the IM screws along here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll do that now, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. Okay, so that's that on, and it looks like that. That has added a fair bit of size to the hull section there. That basically takes it, I think, to roughly the end of the forward well deck. Now, there are 2 screw holes just here, and what we need to do is furnish them. In fact, it's one right at the bottom and that one just there. Just see them, this one and that one here. They need to be attached with 2 of the hex screws that come in the bag marked for issue 18. Now they do give you an Allen key to attach them. I'm not going to use that because you will be able to get a screwdriver in there just now. And I do have an appropriate hex head for my magnetic screwdriver. And what I can also do is extend it like that to make it easier to get in. So now doing these ones last makes it slightly easier to line them up and get them in, because if you're trying to do this with an Allen key, you're going to have a bad time. It's not going to be a lot of fun for you. They're not going to go in very well, and there's not enough purchase on the Allen key to turn them. Now it's fine doing them at this point. That's fine, that one's in nicely. As I say, it's fine doing them just now with the screwdriver, but when it comes to the other side, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge. Fortunately, I previously built the battleship Bismarck, which had a similar problem when it came to fitting screws to the hull section when the ship started to narrow a little bit. It wasn't very pleasant. There we go, lovely. We've got some very tight fit with that hex head. It wasn't a lot of fun trying to fit the hull plates to Bismarck, so what I actually have here is a ratchet with that's a PHOO head on it, so that I can get in and tighten it. Now unfortunately these aren't PHO screws, these are hex heads, so I'll need to get my hex head stubby in there, but I'll work it out how I'm going to do that, because I do not fancy messing about with an Allen key, because you just don't get any purchase. But that is everything that's there to do in this issue. So if you give me a moment, I'll get everything together and I'll show you how everything is looking at present. Okay, so that's us for issue 15. Not a long one. Those Allen hex screws are a bit of a challenge, but that's purely because of where they're located. They're not going to be as bad as the next ones, I don't think. I may have to use the Allen key for them. But we shall wait and see. So, coming in issue 16, we have the next piece of the deck housing, another piece of deck, and some details to go on that. That is the superstructure of the stairwell, the vents, the ventilator hood, and obviously the decking that goes on it. I actually have that down there, so we'll be able to do that very soon. This is what we have so far. As you can see, that's what the hull is looking like. It's looking very good. And then in issue 17 we actually get the bit that goes along here. So I'm really looking forward to that. That should be here shortly. It shouldn't be any great time. And again, if I just slide the funnel into place on that deck, as much for safe storage as anything else, that's what that piece of decking is looking like with the 2 lifeboats on it. Now, I did say I would come back to it. These lifeboats should be covered, because while the ship was at sea, the lifeboats would have no need to not have their canvas covers on them. Other than, obviously, the very famous incident. So, yeah, these 2 lifeboats are the collapsibles, Collapsible A and Collapsible B. They were next to the number 1 funnel on top of the officers' quarters. Yeah, they always had a canvas cover stretched over the top of them. So I may decide to do a wee mod. I may decide to purchase the 3D printed ones. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But that's us for the moment. As I say, I do like how the hull is shaping up. And obviously you've got the well deck that sits just below here. And then this piece here will sit up about there-ish. So that kind of gives you an idea of size of where we are just now. So yeah, we're adding a lot of pieces in this pack, a lot of deck pieces. In terms of the next box, which is issue 17 to 20, I know exactly what's coming in that as well. And that should be with us just shortly. But again, thank you very much for watching. Any comments, criticisms or complaints, put them down in the comments section, and I will see you all very shortly for issue 16. But again, thank you very much for watching. If you do want to get this for yourself, you can get it through the Hachette Partworks website, or if you're not in the United Kingdom, you can get it through the Agora Models website. They're both being distributed at exactly the same time scale, so you're not any quicker going through Agora Models. Don't worry. Okay, but again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one. As always, peace out everyone.